more and more people are having problems with insomnia, and it seems to be a direct result of modern life and the way we all typically now tend to live. Long working hours and perpetual artificial light messing with our internal clocks to the point of leaving everyone in a near-perpetual state of jet lag all the time. Sleep being something we all depend on to happen somehow all by itself, if anything messes with that automatic system, insomnia results, and we can't then get off to sleep like we used to. A variety of pills, potions, dietary supplements, and alternative therapies, all generally failing as we seek, via such third-party means, to somehow re-establish an otherwise interrupted unconscious process that we usually just don't take any conscious part in. So what's the answer? Well, considering that as a society, we're hardly ever likely to change back now to living in some kind of more harmonious way with nature's more natural time clock, it appears the only way forward is to instead finally understand just what sleep and sleeping is and how it occurs, rather than just leaving it all to some weird unconscious process that we don't even really understand. The step forward then being to take a more active part in the process rather than just leaving it all to chance. Our reliance upon an unconscious process, one that can obviously, for whatever many reasons, sometimes go awry, thus leaving someone now unable to fall asleep in the usual manner, has to change, and the key to this is in understanding just what sleep is and how it's actually achieved, albeit until now usually always completely unconsciously. Wilders, for example, people who practice the waking-induced form of lucid dreaming, come to understand that hypnagogia is the key into an altered state. That it's by letting these images that appear before us just before the onset of sleep consciously pull us into an altered state of awareness is how it's actually all done. That this is what happens to everyone when falling asleep, whether they remember it happening or not. Of course, most people under normal circumstances don't ever remember that part. They're laying there one moment and the next they're asleep. But Wilders come to know, via a process of observation, that what actually happens is that the appearance of these images then pulls us into that altered state, albeit, in the case of normal sleep, completely unconsciously. The result of which is ordinary unconscious dreams, or as in the case of Wiles, lucid dreams, and/or the conscious awareness of being in a so-called sleep state while remaining fully awake. This is what wilding is. The radical solution to insomnia then being to instead deliberately find these same hypnagogic images that we never usually remember seeing and watch and enjoy them until they instead pull us into either an unconscious sleep or a lucid dream, depending on what you want. The choice is ultimately ours, to either put up with increasing problems of insomnia in our society and thus continue to try and solve it all with third-party chemical and dietary solutions that don't really work, or take a giant step up and admit there's just no going back and instead bring sleep and sleeping more under our own conscious control by understanding just what sleep actually is and how it's achieved, and thus take a more active hand in the whole process. And because in truth, it's simply that there were undiscovered and unrealized options to sleep and sleeping that we didn't even suspect. Two new things come out of all this. Not only the cure for insomnia in a world increasingly out of sync with nature's time clock, but also the rather amazing ability to wild. This coupled with the ability to then potentially manage and map a whole new area of heretofore unavailable but also extremely interesting and intriguing awareness. I'd call that a step up, wouldn't you? Conquering sleep and bring an otherwise thoroughly unconscious process under conscious control, thus effectively potentially adding anything up to an extra third to our lives in the process that would normally be wasted sleeping. And so then, the radical cure for insomnia is exactly the same as that as learning to wild, in that one deliberately looks and finds these hypnagogic images that we don't usually even remember seeing, knowing that this situation then presents us with two options of either allowing oneself to be pulled unconsciously into them, in which case one will experience only ordinary unconscious dreams as usual, or allow these very same images to consciously pull us into that same state, in which case we experience a full lucid dreaming situation instead. The choice is ours. Only in the vast majority of cases, no choice is ever consciously made beyond that of merely feeling tired and going to bed and then waiting to be somehow magically pulled off into a deeply unconscious sleep. Something which is fine if you always have an otherwise good night's sleep, but which becomes even a severe problem if that unconscious process ever goes awry. The solution to which, if it does go awry, being to just more consciously take over what was previously an unconscious routine and more simply plus consciously direct it oneself. Problem solved.